Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. I am on solo once again tonight. Last night I was with Philip Van Drayden and also Rashab Shakiri, the Bears YouTuber from the channel The Windy City Productions, to go discuss over the Chicago Bears. And tonight I'm very, very honored to have this guest back on our show. He was actually the very first guest that we've ever had on the Double A Team podcast when it was still with the old the Barroom Network based out of Chicago, hosted by founder Aldo Gandia. From It's been a long, long time since we had him. 3 years ago, to be more exact, and we are very, very honored to be reconnected with the Mike Chen, who is the lead writer for the Irish Wire, and now I'm told that you are the head editor and writer for the very same site. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah. So I run this. I got promoted a couple months ago, right when football season started. So I run the Notre Dame website for USA Today, their Wires affiliates. We're not in the main channel, unfortunately, but still part of the USA Today umbrella. So it's pretty cool, and it's getting a chance to cover one of the most storied college football teams ever. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Well, welcome, Mikey, and good evening. Thank you for joining us once again. It's been a long time since we last spoke with each other. Obviously, we reached out to you because, Ken Fang and I kind of started this channel 3 years ago when the pandemic was still at its peak, or maybe early stages, around 2021. The backstory that I'm explaining right now to those who are not familiar. We kind of started this channel with help of Ken Fang through Benku, who is the owner and, of course, the editor of popular sports media website, Awful Announcing. And Ben was kind enough to introduce me to Ken to be the host. And the very first guest we've had was you, of course. And, we kind of, started out this channel, wanted to raise awareness about the, our community that have been hit hard due to the racism that was stemmed from the Donald Trump's comment, the China or Kung Fu virus, and
Right.
unfortunately now he got reelected. So we have to kind of brace ourselves for the inevitable. But
The worst.
but obviously that's not the point of our discussion tonight. But that's how we started, because we wanted to raise awareness of Asian American people working in the sports and entertainment industry, which obviously, still lack somewhat of a diversity. And you were the very first person I reached out, and you were kind enough to join us.
Of course.
And we had a lot of discussions about the overall state of the industry and everything. But it's been 3 years, and I'm very, very happy that things are going very well for you, Mikey.
Thank you.
I'm told that in our early conversations before when we went on live, you have a first child as well, correct?
I do. Yes, I do. His name is Mason.
Is that a boy?
Yeah, his name is Mason. He is literally my life. I do everything for him now. He's turning one here in a couple weeks, and
Right.
It's been quite the ride being a parent.
Oh, congratulations to
you.
you and your wife. And you also live out in the Chicago suburbs as well, correct?
Yeah. So I live right now in Des Plaines, but we just bought a house in Glenview, which is my hometown. So we haven't completed the move yet, but we're getting over there, and I do work all around the Chicagoland area as well, with my other job where I'm the associate producer for WCIU's Live Sports. Mainly we do high school football, basketball. Sometimes we throw a soccer game in there. But yeah, that's I'm all over the place. We'll actually be at Naperville Central on Saturday doing their game against York for a spot in the state championship games next weekend. So it should be a good game tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, Saturday.
Well, I'm very, very glad things are, going very well for you. And it's been such a long, long time. And, we wanted to catch up on a lot of things. And obviously you being a lead writer for the Irish Wire. So I just wanted to kind of give you props for Irish overall current state of the college football and everything right now. Let's start with the Fighting Irish. They have a pretty big game this week against Army, who has been, obviously having a fantastic year. We know, Irish and Army, long time ago, back when neither one of us were even born at the time, and, when the TVs were black and white. We know the historical matchup between two institutions and all of that right now. With the so much is riding on the Fighting Irish right now. What is the overall mood within the team right now? Is it cautiously optimistic, or is there like a possibility that Army, despite the unconventional offense that they run, that they're obviously ripe for an upset? What is the current mood right now within the Irish team right now?
I think the fact that they got to play Navy earlier in the season, who runs a very similar offense, is going to help out this week. The triple offense is not something that you see in modern college football very often.
Yeah.
And when you get a chance to face it once, it typically like trips you up. Now the Irish weren't tripped up at all when they took on Navy. So they played it really well. I expect kind of a similar result this week. Army's good. I'm not going to take away anything from them. Jeff Monken's a really, really good coach.
Right.
But you have to look at everything that's riding for Notre Dame. They control their own destiny, and they have for the last few weeks. Obviously, the week 2 loss to Northern Illinois hurts, because Northern Illinois, there was talk that they might be the group of 5 team that would make the college football playoff. Well, that's definitely not going to be the case. I believe they have 6 losses on the year right now.
Right.
So that loss is pretty bad. But on the other hand, in college football, and especially this day and age of a 12-team playoff, you can afford to lose and lose multiple times. Now, the Irish's case, a second loss, I think, would really put them in a bind. I'm not sure if they would be able to recover from that. But, they have, this weekend's game against Army. They have next weekend against a USC team that has tons of talent, but is severely underperforming this year. So I think it's more than manageable for them to win both games. I mean, you saw the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday night, and the Irish, would host a home game against Alabama. And, it's all hypothetical right now, obviously, because the season's got a couple weeks left, and then championship week on top of that. But yeah, I think that Notre Dame coming into the game is feeling very confident with what they can accomplish. I don't think they're looking ahead to USC. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. I mean, this week's game is the Shamrock Series game. So it's also a big game for them. So I don't think they'll be looking ahead. Anytime you see a team with a number next to their name, it's pretty easy to get up for that one. And I think the Irish, like I said, have seen this offense. So it's not going to be one where they're not accustomed to seeing it. They've seen it this year. Now, they see it pretty much every year, but to see it twice in a year, and one of them significantly earlier on in the season than the other one, I think that gives them advantage to what they will see on Saturday. So I think they're feeling pretty confident going into the game.
I'm about to show a screen for the college football's recent selection here, if you can take a look here. So Irish currently ranked number 6. Oregon at number 1. Your alma mater, Ohio State, currently at number 2. And we'll get to the Ohio State side in a little bit.
Sure.
Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5, and Notre Dame at currently number 6. So when you look at this recent rankings, Mikey, any surprises, or what sticks out to you the most?
I'm not necessarily surprised by a lot of this. I kind of saw this coming. What I do think is a little bit interesting, though, is the fact that you look at 3 of the top 5 teams, and they've really not played anybody. Texas really hasn't played anybody. They don't have a win over a ranked opponent. Penn State, the same. and Indiana the same. I get it. I understand it. There's brand name, there's big conference affiliation there, but in all reality, like what have they done? You could make an argument that Alabama should be ranked 3. You could make an argument that Ole Miss should be ranked 3. I just feel like the playoff committee said that they were going to look at all the factors and they were kind of re-rank them every week. Well, if that's the case, you just don't go by record, and that's what's kind of disappointing here in this situation, because you look and Oregon's undefeated, Ohio State, their lone losses to Oregon, Texas's losses to Georgia, who is significantly ranked lower than them. Although yes, the Bulldogs do have 2 losses, but they've handled Texas though. So that's a little bit confusing. Penn State, the only tough they may have played this year is Ohio State, which was a loss. Indiana hasn't played anybody. The Irish have a couple of good wins. Louisville is a good win. They were ranked previously. Georgia Tech came off an upset and got that one as well. So I'm good with where Notre Dame is because, with 1 loss and that 1 loss being a bad loss, I get that. But you can definitely make an argument for other teams being above Notre Dame too, because their losses, although there might be more losses, are better than Notre Dame's loss. So it's just really confusing. And I think that this is, obviously this is a trial run. We really didn't know coming into the season what it was going to look like and how the committee was going to go about ranking it. I mean, there's going to be a lot more movement here in the top of this rankings. Ohio State plays Indiana this weekend. Texas plays Texas A&M in the season finale. Oregon could potentially play Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship game. There's going to be a ton of movement inside that top 5 before the end of the season's over. And what we're seeing today is not what we're going to see at the end of the year. It is not. I will 100% just throw that out there. This is just, hey, this is where we think these teams are. We'll really get a chance after the regular season ends. That's when it's all going to shake out, because then you're not going to get a ton of movement during championship weekend. Some teams who are ranked high won't be playing, and so there might be a little bit of shuffle. But honestly, though, this top 5, top 6 could be shaken up a whole heck of a lot before the end of the season.
What is the best case, worst case scenario for your Irish between now and the end of the season, in your opinion?
Best case, they win out and they get the 5 seed. Unfortunately, due to no conference affiliation, they are not eligible for a first round bye. But hosting a home game in South Bend at Notre Dame Stadium, that's the goal. That's the idea. They've crept up the rankings every week since that loss to Northern Illinois in week 2. And, best case scenario for me is you win out, you win this week, you win next week. You sit and watch the other teams purge each other during championship weekend. And, you get that 5 spot and you get that home playoff, and that 5 spot. And that's really the spot that you want to be, because, you're playing the 12, which it looks like it's going to be Boise State at home. And then you get a lower ranked team in the second round. Really, you've got a very easy run to the semifinals if you're the 5 seed. So that's the goal. Worst case scenario for the Irish, they drop this weekend's game, they drop next weekend's game, they're out of it completely. I don't see that happening. I think at worst they split. But even with the split, and regardless of who they win or who they lose to, it's hard to say whether they'll get in with 2 losses, especially if it's the losses for next week against USC, because USC is not very good this year. If they lose this week against Army, ranked loss, a little bit more understandable, but that's still 2 losses. I don't know how you could conceivably rank them over an Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee type of team. I just don't, if those teams win out. So, worst case scenario is the Irish, they lose one of these 2 games and the committee docks them significantly, and they're on the outside looking in for the college football playoff.
My guest tonight, Mikey Chen, who is the producer at WICU Channel 26 in the Chicago area, and also lead writer and also promoted to the lead editor for Irish Wire, which is part of the USA Today network. So a lot of people probably, for those who are not really familiar with Irish at this point, can you kind of give us an overview of what is the strength and also the weakness of Notre Dame? And whenever they go up in the playoffs against the maybe one of the SEC teams, perhaps in the actual playoffs later this year.
Yeah, strengths is really easy. It's that defense. And what they've done this year has been quite remarkable. They've lost multiple guys on the defensive line. Boubacar Traore, Jordan Botello. Those guys are lost for the season. You're looking at a potential All-American candidate, Howard Cross, who missed last week and might miss this week. And they just keep churning out dudes after dudes after dudes. Yeah. Linebackers led by Jack Kaiser and Drake Bowen. Drake Bowen, in my eyes, as a sophomore, he has one more big season. He's off to the NFL. I think he's that good. Who's a star baseball player as well in high school. The dude's just an awesome athlete. And then on the back end, in the secondary, it's led by Xavier Watts, who's the Bronco Nagurski Award winner last year. He's having just as good of a season this year. Well, the interception numbers aren't quite as what they were last year. He's still got a couple of games to get there. And, again, the secondary, same thing. They lost their best cornerback in Ben Morrison a couple of weeks ago to a hip injury. Mm-hmm. And they just keep churning the young guys. It's just impressive the amount of depth that Marcus Freeman has been to accumulate on the defensive side. Now, the weaknesses in my eyes, it's the passing game. And I think it's very, very easy. Yeah, you got my stuff up there. So
yeah, I'm highlighting your work as a lead writer.
Thank you.
There, so.
I think that, the weakness is pretty glaring, and I think it's in the passing game. I've had my issues with Riley Leonard. Early on in the season, he has made some improvements over the course of the year. Now, granted, he was coming off of an ankle injury over the offseason, so maybe he wasn't 100% healthy early on. Him running the ball, it's just really the passing part of the offense. Offensive line is young. They've got, a lot of, they also have withstood some injuries over there as well. Anthony Knapp is a true freshman playing left tackle, and you don't see that a lot, except really at Notre Dame, which is kind of funny because, Joe Alt leaves a couple years ago, and then you see another true freshman jump in at a left tackle and perform at a high level, which I think goes to show you that Notre Dame does a really good job of evaluating talent and not necessarily looking at star rankings and all of that. They go off of what they see, and I think that's helped them a lot because they get guys who are ranked lower who actually come in and perform at a super high level. Now they do get 4 stars, 5 stars as well, but a lot of their lower ranked guys are good players and they contribute to the team. But back to their weaknesses, the wide receivers as a unit just haven't really done it for me. Mitchell Evans has come back around, from also coming off of an offseason injury in the ACL last year. Mm-hmm. So he's coming around. He's starting to look a little bit better. He's caught touchdown passes in back-to-back games. But to me, you're looking at a group of wide receivers, that just are underperforming and have been underperforming for a number of years. They don't have a lead dude out there. They don't have the guy. And I think that's what this offense is missing. If they had a guy that could go out there and just make a play all the time, then I think this offense it would be extremely hard to stop. But I think that when you get to, the end of the season and you're playing other top teams, potentially college football playoff, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm looking at Notre Dame's offense, I'm stacking the box. I'm forcing Riley Leonard to win with his arm. And I don't necessarily know if that's the case, if they can do it. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think that they can against certain teams, but, when you're talking about, the best 12 teams in the country, there's not a lot of weaknesses in those teams. They definitely have some of them, but, in my eyes, I would stack the box. I would force Notre Dame to throw the ball. If you can get Riley Leonard to throw the ball, 30 to 35 times, I think you're in a really good position to win the game. You know,
Mhm.
like I said, he has made some strides in the
Yeah.
passing game, and I think that he's definitely looked better. But when you look at when you're ranking quarterbacks, in that top 12,
Yeah.
he's going to be towards the bottom of that list. And in college football, quarterback is everything. It really is. And
Yeah.
they're just they're behind the curve on that. Marcus Freeman over the last 4 years has gone in the transfer portal and grabbed a guy. Sam Hartman last year, Jack Cohen a few years ago, and then in between that, it was Tyler Buckner, who left, came back,
Yeah.
went to Alabama, came back. Now he's the scout team quarterback. He's pretending to be Army's quarterback this week. So, yeah, to me, it's pretty obvious where the weaknesses are for the Irish. You're looking at a passing offense that's just not quite up to par as the other teams
Yeah.
across the country. Mike Denbrock, however, is one hell of an offensive coordinator, and he's done a really good job of running plays that work. If he finds a certain play that works and is gashing a defense, he's going to keep taking that play until they stop it. And I love to see that. I mean, that's kind of like what you do when you play Madden or NCAA college football, right?
Yeah.
You line up for a play and it works. You're like, what, I'm going to try this again. Yeah, they're not stopping it, so I'm going to keep running this. And that's kind of how Denbrock operates, and I like it. His bag is deep. He's got a really good offense, but I think he's missing a couple pieces to really get that to the next level because, Jaden Daniels last year, because he was at LSU last year, Jaden Daniels had, a plethora of weapons on the outside, and look what he did. And that's the difference between what Denbrock has this year and what he had last year, is that LSU's wide receivers are significantly better than Notre Dame's wide receivers, and therefore they're throwing the ball a little bit more. Now, Denbrock has leaned into the run game, though, which I like. I think that, especially with Jeremiah Love, he's one of the best backs in my eyes in the country. He's scored a touchdown in every game this fall. He ripped off a huge 70-yard run last weekend. He's one of the most explosive players in all of college football. And they use him a lot in the passing game. So I still think that if you're looking at a weakness for Notre Dame, it's definitely their passing.
Mhm. Has head coach Marcus Freeman, won over the fans? Yeah, even with the loss to Northern Illinois earlier this year, notwithstanding. I know he's kind of had some ups and downs, obviously, with the program so far. But has he completely won over the fans with this year's showing, or is there still point that you feel like he still has something to prove?
That's the $1 million question right there. Has he won it with us? I think he's getting closer. I think he's working in the right direction. I think that everything that he's done, that Northern Illinois loss hurts, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at, if you're talking about him not tripping up in that game, you're looking at, a team that's undefeated heading into the final 2 weeks with probably ranked 2 to 3 in the college football playoff. And they're almost a shoo-in to make it. I think his biggest bugaboo has been losing to lower ranked teams. They did it with Marshall. They did it at Stanford last year, obviously Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
He fixes that. I think everyone's all in. They are very close. I mean, Marcus Freeman, he's a likable coach. He's a player's coach. He gets in players' faces when he needs to get in players' faces. But aside from that, he's happy-go-lucky. He really likes what he's doing. He's very honest too. I don't like it when coaches go in their press conferences and give you coach speak. Freeman tells Freeman. No, seriously though, it's great to be able to cover him because he tells it like it is. He doesn't beat around the bush. If there's something that's an issue, he says it, and I like that. I like the transparency from your head coach.
No, I just laughed. I apologize there because
as
a Chicago Bears fan, I'm tired of
me,
the Matt Eberflus fluff
speak.
word salad almost every week. So
right, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's nice because I kind of knew that's where you're coming from. So no worries there. But I think he's close. He needs I think everyone will forget the Northern Illinois loss as long as they go to the college football playoffs. If they make it, I think everyone's on board because that's the goal, right? they've made it under Brian Kelly a few years ago, and they got
Yeah.
waxed against Alabama. Alabama went on to win a national championship that year. But if
Yeah.
you look at what they did against Alabama, they held Alabama, that high scoring Alabama offense, to their lowest point total of the season. So again, and this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with strengths and weaknesses. The Notre Dame offense has not been on par with the Notre Dame defense for a number of years. It's
Right.
getting there. It's getting closer. And if Freeman can get the offense to be at the same level as the defense, I don't think any Notre Dame fan is going to be questioning whether or not Marcus Freeman is the guy. I think right now, I think it's like 80-20 that they're in on him, but full on, he wins this week, he wins it next week, they get in the college football playoff, done. Everyone's all in because that's the goal. And he's doing it in the first year of the expanded playoff, which is kind of set up for him anyways when you look at the schedule. So, yeah, I think that they're close, but he hasn't 100% gotten everything.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about your alma mater, Ohio State. They face Indiana in a huge showdown this week. Um, Obviously, you still probably keep a tab on your, alma mater and what's going on this year as well. With the way the team is currently constructed, they're number 2 right now, even with a one loss that came several weeks ago against Oregon up in Eugene. There, what were your thoughts on that game? Again, going up against Oregon, and did you feel that they could hang with Oregon, or is there something that really kind of bother you about the way Ohio State is currently playing this year? Because I know defense isn't exactly in tip-top shape under Jim Knowles, the DC, and Ryan Day has taken a lot of criticism in recent years. As somebody who lived in outside of Columbus, and the fans have become a little more impatient with the current state of the program.
Yeah. Going back to that Oregon loss, I actually think that that was arguably the best thing to happen to Ohio State. Heading into the season, big heads, everyone's saying that this is an NFL roster, that this might be one of the most talented teams all time in college football. And then, they definitely had a chance to beat Oregon at the end. Will Howard slides with what could have, kind of depending on, the referee, you could interpret it that he was down with 1 second, or you could interpret that they ran out of time. So, they were close, and it was a good game. I think in a neutral field, I think Ohio State might pull that one out, but they didn't. However, that loss, in my eyes, was supremely important because when you're a football team or any sport, and everyone tells you how great you start to believe that stuff. You don't work as hard. You're not quite as focused. And I think you've seen a different Ohio State team come out after that game against Oregon. Yeah, they had a scare against Nebraska,
Sure.
off of a bye week. They looked rusty. I'm not really going to be concerned with that one. But they've come out in the last other few weeks and just kind of smashed teams. And I think that, Indiana, Kurt Cignetti is a really, really good coach, a really good coach. I'm actually kind of shocked that he signed an extension with the Hoosiers because, yes, he is on the older side. I think he's like 64, 65. So he's a little bit on the older side for head coaches to really get his first big time job.
Yeah.
But I mean, Indiana's promised him that they're going to upgrade the facilities. They're going to do a lot more in NIL. And, the Hoosiers are, a big basketball program. They can kind of translate some of that over to the football side of things. I think they can make it work. The Midwest is an untapped region for talent. I think a lot of players followed him from James Madison. And I think that's worked out well for him, like Curtis Rourke, their quarterback. But I also think that, when push comes to shove, and you saw it a couple of weeks ago against Michigan with similar talent, Indiana struggled. And I think that, and when you look at what Michigan is this year, they're a good defense and a really, really bad offense. And I think they're 5-5 right now. They've fallen hard after winning the championship last year. losing their head coach, losing a bunch of coordinators, etc. But I think that's like kind of the litmus test here, because Indiana really, you look at their schedule, they haven't played any. Ohio State's really their toughest game, and they barely beat Michigan, and now they have to travel to Ohio State, play in a raucous environment, which sometimes it's a little quieter, than you would expect out of 100 and some odd thousand fans. But I really think that the Buckeyes, again, like Notre Dame, they control their own destiny. They win out, they're probably the 1 seed, get a first round bye, and sit and watch the first round of college football play. Now, obviously, Notre Dame can't get that bye, but I think both of them have everything in front of them, because look, Oregon has already clinched a spot in the Big Ten championship game. So Ohio State, all they have to do is win out, virtually due to their win over Penn State and Indiana. So head-to-head games, because both of those teams will finish with 1 conference loss as well, along with Ohio State. So the Buckeyes have everything in front of them also, and I think they know that. Now, unfortunately, their starting center and Alabama transfer, Seth McLaughlin, went down with an Achilles injury during the week of practice, and so he's been ruled out. Who knows how long he's out for. Ryan Day was kind of coy with the how significant the injury was. So we'll see how that ends up happening. But Ohio State's had to battle, issues on their offensive line all year. Josh Simmons, their starting left tackle, he went down in the Oregon game with a season-ending injury as well. He was projected as late first round, early second round NFL draft pick. So you're looking at an offensive line that's beat up. But again, you're also talking about an Ohio State team that recruits at a very, very high level, that really does a good job of I wouldn't necessarily say development in the offensive line, but they do a good job of scheming around their issues. Because Chip Kelly's a really, really good offensive coordinator. So I think this is a good game. It'll be a fun one. But in my eyes, I can't see Ohio State not winning by more than 2 touchdowns.
Does Indiana deserve their lofty rankings? It's kind of a hot button question right now. A lot of media members, especially kind of like skewered towards the SEC, are kind of being vocal about it. Obviously, sour grapes, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are complaining about the same teams always year in and year out, and now you got Indiana out of nowhere, of course, and then people are complaining about it, and which kind of leads to bigger questions about the current format with the 12 teams, where the top 2 teams in the each conference is, of course, there are no more conferences anymore with the the Pac-10 being gone, etc. Now it's just going to be basically Big Ten, SEC, and then who knows what will happen with the ACC and the Big 12 in the long run. Do you like the current format as it is, or let's start with the Indiana. Do they deserve their rankings, or and then do you feel that the current 12-team format is kind of somewhat awkward, and maybe that they need to expand it down to 16 sooner rather than later?
Well, starting off with Indiana, I get it. I get where the committee's coming from. They're a Power 5 conference, undefeated, but who have they played? I mean, they really played nobody. I'm looking at their schedule right now. Like, in the Big Ten, they played UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan. Like, that's not a tough schedule. I mean, coming into the year, I looked at Indiana like kind of like a 7-4-ish type of team, but they've had everything break for them. And,
that's true.
And I don't know if they can continue to ride that wave, especially this week. The question is Indiana loses this week, and then they have Purdue the week following, and they should just crush Purdue, because Purdue is absolutely horrendous. I still think they get in, but I don't know if 5 is really where because you can make an argument that Alabama is better than Indiana, that Notre Dame is better than Indiana, Ole Miss is better than Indiana, that Georgia is better than Indiana. Tennessee is better than Indiana. Obviously, I skipped out on Miami because I think they're frauds too. And then I think Boise State's good, but I don't think that they're championship caliber. So yeah, I think that Indiana's ranked, a little bit high.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ranked appropriately. I think they should be somewhere in the 8 to 10 range. But I did, like I said at the beginning, I understand why the committee did it. I understand why they're ranked where they are. Again, Power 5 school, undefeated. I get it because if say hypothetically Alabama was undefeated, they're number one, right? Georgia's undefeated, they're number one, right?
Yeah.
So and yes, they are behind multiple lost Big Ten teams as well, right? So I think that they're in a good spot. I probably would have put them lower, but I kind of expected them to be 5 when the rankings came out on Tuesday.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna answer your second question. So, to me, I don't like the 12, right?
Yeah.
I think it's too many. I personally, I would have kept the conferences where they were. Losing the Pac-12, the Big 12 kind of being super watered down, like that to me, this is just weird college football now. It's like the SEC and the Big Ten are just like, I'm just going to steal that team, I'm going to steal that team, I'm going to steal that team, and then everyone else just kind of does.
Right. A lot of teams are going to fight tooth and nail just to get out of their own conferences, especially the ones in the ACC and then the Big 12 eventually. Schools from ACC might want to jump to Big 10, SEC, or whoever would take them, of course. So.
No, I can definitely see that happening in the future. Unfortunately, it does look like they're trending towards power conferences, which I'm not the biggest fan of either. I'm more of a traditionalist with college football. So really what I would have liked to see with the expansion, and I've always called for expansion. I never thought that 4 teams was the right amount of teams. I just thought that, you leave out some really good teams out there. I think 12 was too many. If it was me personally, I would have went with 8 teams. I would have made automatic qualifiers for the first 5, the 5 power conferences that were there. Obviously, you can't quite do that anymore because the conferences, like I said, are watered down now. But if we were talking about it, the year previously, before we had all these teams move, I would have given 1 to every power conference, and then you have 3. Then you have 3 at larges, and I think that then you'd get really the best mix of the top teams across the country. And part of this with the 12-team expansion is so that people or teams or fans, whatever, don't have a complaint about, well, we were good enough, we should be playing in the championship. Because last year we saw it with Florida State, right? Florida State lost their quarterback 2 weeks before the end of the season, and an undefeated Florida State got left out of the college football. So there's definitely an argument to be made there due to that. But in my eyes, I just think, can Boise State really win a national championship? I think Georgia could, but
sure.
Can Miami really win a national championship? I don't think so. Can Tennessee? I'm not sure. Depending on their quarterback, I'm going to butcher his last name, Nico Imiavela.
Maviaba, I believe that's.
Yeah. There you go. Like I said, I was going to butcher it.
You weren't the first one, and you won't be the last one. Sorry.
I know.
Don't worry about that.
He's he's a great player, but he's young and he's been hurt too. So I just don't know. I think that if you look at the excluding Miami, and I would actually flip flop if I was looking at this, and you took Miami and flipped them with Georgia, because I still think Georgia's better than Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I think that you're looking at a top 8 where anyone could win, really. And that would be fun for me to watch. I think, I think with the 4 extra teams, I think it waters it down a little bit more. Because I don't think we're going to see a lot of, teams ranked in that, 10, 11, 12 range have an opportunity to win a championship. Because, yeah, Georgia's good, but Georgia's flaws too. They have bad quarterback play. You know, Carson Beck is not as good as everyone thought he was going to be. So, you know, and that's kind of what you're looking at, because when you look at it, you know, you've got, you know, Dylan Gabriel, you got Will Howard,
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers, you know, that's at the top, and those are like those guys should be drafted in the NFL.
Sure.
And you know, then you kind of look past that, and you're like, well, you know, it's not all that great. You know, Riley Leonard might get a chance. I highly doubt Curtis Rourke gets drafted. Drew Aller's really good for Penn State, but like he's just so inconsistent, and he doesn't show up for big games. Jalen Milrose, he's an improving passer. Cam Ward is a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. Cam Ward's a really good quarterback. So you've got a class of quarterbacks that's really, really good. But you know, I'm not sure that, you know, all those teams would have a legit shot at it, because I think as we continue to go through the college football plan, we're going to start to see that those teams, like, you know, lower than 8, they just don't have a legit chance at winning, because not only that, they have to go on the road in the first round, and then, you know, obviously they have to play that extra game. I just don't see a lot of teams coming out being able to get through that grind. I really don't. So I think, you know, I think keeping it, you know, expanding it was the right move. I think they expanded it way too much. I think they should have went to 8 as opposed to 12. But, you know, I guess 12 does give, you know, a couple more teams an opportunity to win a title. But I just, like I said, I just don't see a team that's ranked on the lower end of that coming out and winning it. I just don't.
Do you think we'll see the you know, like a European soccer style promotion relegation within like each conferences or regions moving forward, or is that too much of a financial risk for, you know, schools like Vanderbilt, or, you know, the lower end of the, you know, even Northwestern, for example, you know, the teams that have real no shot at, you know, really you know, being competitive, and especially in this day and age where you have NILs and everything. Do you foresee that, or is that too much?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I just don't. I don't see that happening. You know, conference affiliation is huge right now, mainly because, you know, say, you know, hypothetically you're looking at the Big Ten, right? Yeah. So if this was the final college football playoff rankings, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are in it, right? And just because the other schools, the other 14 schools don't make the college football playoff doesn't mean they don't profit from it, because every conference, it all gets pooled in and then divided evenly out throughout the rest of the conference. So like all the purses, you know, for bowl games, etc. So, you know, it's like, you know, hypothetically Oregon gets, you know, 10 million for that second round game that they'd have to play, right? They don't get 10 million. You know, they get some of that 10 million, but it gets dispersed out throughout the rest of the conference. So I just don't see that happening. I don't think it's a viable, you know, solution for college football. What I could see like more of in the future is going to just strictly 4 conferences, you know, and if that was the case, I do like, you know, North, East, South, and West, and just kind of do it by location. Like, you're in the North, you're lumped into all these teams regardless of who it is. You know, you're in the East, you get lumped in. You know, you take the top, it'd be 3 teams from each of those regions, and you know, you seed them, and you go from there with the 12. But I just feel like it's gonna, like, you know, you're watering it down. I think it's watered down already with 12 teams. You know, and if they continue to try and go with more of an expanded playoffs, you know, say they go to, you know, 18 or they go to 20, like, I just feel like it's just watered down. Because again, I just don't see the possibility of those lower ranked teams really making a run at it. Because it just, like, is Army ever going to win a national championship? Like, a good team, but, you know, if it was 20, then they'd be in, and, you know, whoever is facing it is probably licking their chops and getting ready to trounce all over them. So I just don't see that. I don't think it works for college football. I think we are, you know, we are moving towards a super conference era, which I'm like I said, I'm a college football traditionalist, and I would have liked to see it being kept, with all the traditional rivalries and everything.
That's true.
But on the other hand, progress is progress, and if the committee makes the right move and it makes sense for not just them but for all of college football, I'm good with it too. So just kind of got to roll with the punches. But yeah,
right.
Like I said, I'd like to see 8, but 12 is 12.
Yeah. All right. One last question. Probably
Sure.
It won't take more than 30 seconds. Who's your Heisman winner?
Heisman. Ooh, that is tough. I've thought about this for, I actually thought about it the other day. I was kind of kicking the tires of it. You've got, in my eyes, I think you've got like 3 clear-cut guys. And it's Dylan Gabriel, I think Will Howard, who doesn't get enough love. Yeah. And then you've got Jalen Milroe. I think those are the 3 best players in the country. If I had to guess who's going to win it, considering what's going on right now, and Oregon goes undefeated, I'd probably give it to Gabriel.
Mm-hmm. But in technicality, you think it's Shadur Sanders?
No. You know what? Shadur's a good player.
Yeah.
But I think that.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think he wasn't even in it. I apologize. Maybe I was thinking of Travis Hunter and then Ashton Jeanty. Yeah.
Jeanty actually should have a shot. If all things were equal, I think Jeanty should win it. Yeah. But they're just not going to give it to a guy who plays for Boise State. It's a bad look for the NCAA. That's just not what they're going to want to do. I mean, really, that's a good point. He is probably the best player in the country. But
I agree, 100%.
They're just not going to give it to a guy that plays for Boise State. He plays for anywhere else, he wins the Heisman, and it's like not even a question.
Yeah.
On the Hunter thing, the 2 Buffaloes, I think they're good players. I think Shador is a little bit overrated. I don't think he's, I think he dances around too much back there, and I don't see it. Now Travis is a great 2-way player, but. I think that if he had just stuck to one position, I think he'd be in such a much better position to make, an argument that he's the best player in the country,
sure,
and win the Heisman. But yeah, I mean, that, and defensive players really don't do it. I mean, Charles Woodson was the last one to do it, and that was in the 90s. So, playing 2 ways is awesome. It's fun. It's cool, and we've seen plenty of 2-way players come across the NCAA over the last few years. But when you're a jack of all trades but a master of none, you're not going to win a Heisman.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be very interesting to see what the voters have to do, and I totally agree. Jeanty deserves so much credit and respect for what he does on every week, carrying the ball 30 times and putting his body out there. Obviously considering the position of a linebacker being so devalued nowadays days. Right. So he truly deserves what he does, even with the competition notwithstanding. But we shall see in a couple of weeks when they finally make their announcement.
Yes, we will.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure to follow Mikey on Twitter there, Mike F Chen. We saw the irishwire.com page and some of the pages where Mikey is the lead writer for everything related to Fighting Irish athletics. And listen, Mikey, thank you for doing this on the Thursday night. I hope the winter, hopefully the snow isn't getting you there too much there.
Not bad. We had our first little snowfall. It was just like a dusting today.
Same here in the Michigan area too.
Yeah,
it did kind of a snow fall a little bit later in the afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock ish. So
yeah, we got it a little bit earlier here, but not too bad. Able to walk through it. It wasn't that wet.
Well, listen, congratulations on your everything you've done so far, professionally and of course personally as well. And listen, have a great Thanksgiving for you and your family. And I'd love to have you on again to catch up on the actual Irish matchups as well as the the other college football playoff matchups, and then we'll catch up again very, very soon. And thank you very much, and congratulations. We'll hope to have you on again.
Of course, anytime.
Have a great night, Mikey.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. And for those who watched us, thank you very much. Stick around. I'm going to have the Alex Paff from the Cubby Crib joining us to talk about Cubs off-season plans, if there is one. It will be happening in about 5 short minutes. So thank you very much for joining us. If you're not going to stick around, that's understandable. Have a wonderful evening. If you're in the Midwest, please be careful with the snow and the sleet, rain and everything. So have a great night, and we'll catch up you in 5 minutes shortly.